Okay, perfect. So this is my company, Tossd, and like Whitney said, I'm excited to be here and to tell you a little bit about our company and myself and the things I've learned. As you can see, I'm most of your age. I'm young, so hopefully I can kind of be on the same level as you guys and be able to teach you something, learn from you guys, and just, yeah. Okay, so like you, I've been in a lot of these business type forum type classes, and I would always get so frustrated when someone would come and speak about their company and then not leave me with anything that I could do in my business endeavors. So I'm gonna talk about some things that I've learned and some things that I've done wrong. I've done a lot of things wrong. So hopefully you can learn from my mistakes, and I'll introduce myself and my company and then talk about those things. So first, just a bit about me personally. This is me and my husband and our dogs. We love our dogs. And this is just a chair. I love design. I'm from, they're kind of blurry, but I'm from Colorado. This is one of my favorite places. Love to snowboard. And then this is just a random fact. I love spicy foods. So that's a picture of me with some spicy chips because I love spicy foods. So I know that's not why you're here to learn about that. And that's a picture of my dog like 2 days ago. So I put it in there because it was on my feed. And then a little bit about my company. So kind of like Whitney explained a little bit, just a little bit of background. So I funded it and I started it when I was a junior in high school. So I don't really count the first couple of years. There's a lot of things happening there that are not real business principles, just some scary things the first couple of years. But super glad that it's still up and running. It's been an awesome experience, learned a ton. And like she said, so I volunteered at this orphanage for a couple weeks. And in Ecuador, the government doesn't help out at all with orphanages. So as you can probably imagine, it's a special needs orphanage, so it's super expensive with, you know, feeding tubes and oxygen and wheelchairs and medication and all that. It's just really expensive to keep it up and running. And so they are run just solely off of donations. So it's really hard to kind of be consistent in making sure that all the kids are taken care of. So after it, like she said, it almost shut down when I was there, but luckily they were kind of able to get on their feet a little bit. And then when I came home, I started Toss to kind of help fund it. So I'll talk about our products, but $1 from each of our salt spray bottles goes to the orphanage, and that's kind of our contribution, and that's the same thing as what it's been since we started. And it was founded in 2015, so we're coming up on 4 to 5 years. So it's been, I know we're still new, but it feels like a long time. And like I said, I was a junior. And then how I started, I like to tell the story because I just think it's kind of funny. So I was 16, I just got home, I was in high school, I'd never taken a business class before, my high school didn't have those, so I just was a girl doing who knows what. And one day I was sitting in my room and was like thinking of what I could do and thinking of different ideas. And I made the Instagram handle just to see like if the name was available on Instagram. And at the time it was actually called Salty. But I just wanted to see like, you know, what it would look like on Instagram. No intention to actually start it. I wasn't ready to start it at all. And it sent a notification to all my Facebook friends that I started this Instagram account. So people were texting me, and my friends and family were like messaging me, asking me what it was. And so I got so nervous and embarrassed that I started it and didn't know what I was doing. And so I kind of decided if I ever wanted to start something, the tiny bit of momentum I had, I don't even know if you can call it momentum. It was like a few people that texted me, good friends. But I just decided I might as well do it while all my Facebook friends knew I was doing it. So that's kind of how it started. I think I started with like $100, maybe $200. Like I said, I was 16. So there's not even record of what I started it with, but yeah, not much at all. So definitely bootstrap. So here's our top 3 sellers. This is a salt spray. So boys, you're probably not really typically familiar with what that is, but salt spray is a very common product, but girls and boys use it. If you've ever been to the ocean and you swim in the ocean and your hair gets like kind of salty, you know, makes it a little curlier and just helps your hair hold grit and volume, that's essentially exactly what it is. So just think of it as clean ocean water. But yeah, just makes your hair curly, and then that's our product that donates. And then our scrunchies, girls love these, and boys if you have long hair, but these are our scrunchies. And then our bandanas, these are our kind of top 3 sellers, our little headbands. So I wanted to talk about some of our successes, some things that I am proud of, and then, like I said, I have done so many things wrong and I'm still learning. So I'll talk about some things that we haven't done so well also, but here's a few things that I'm proud of. We're currently in over 100 retail locations around the United States. So a lot of those are in, I think we're in like 22, around 20 stores in Utah. So around here, you might see some of our products in boutiques, stores, surf shops, salons, or few random places have our products, which is awesome. And then just cities around the United States as well. And we've had exposure in 121 different countries in the last year. So that was from 2018, just like visitors on our website from different countries, which I honestly didn't know that until I was making this presentation and trying to think of things I was proud of. I was proud of that. I thought that was cool. And then we've donated tens of thousands of dollars to the orphanage. It's still up and running today, and disclaimer, that is not just because of Tossd. They've had a lot of things happen over the past couple years that have helped them be a little bit more stable, but that probably should be number one. I'm just glad that they're still up and running and doing really well, and they're much more stable now, like I said, not just because of us, but we have contributed to that. And then we have over 25 products on our online shop, so a lot of different types of accessories and different types of scrunchies, lots of different scrunchies and things. So yeah, oh, also, I forgot to mention, please stop me if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything that you'd like to, if you're wondering about, or just a comment, I'd love to hear it. So you feel free to interrupt me. Some of our failures. So this was kind of funny to think of some things that we've done wrong when I was preparing this. But number one, I love this story. It's sad, it's funny. But when we first started, so we made the Instagram, I made an online store from like a template, nothing impressive at all. And we got a few orders, and I don't even think I had bottles for the salt spray yet. I wasn't ready in any way to start like actually shipping or selling product. I just had some friends that were supportive and really nice. And so I was thinking about how we were gonna package it, how we were gonna send it, and I thought that glass bottles would be really pretty. You know, like you've probably seen glass bottles in stores and things. So we ordered like 10 glass bottles and shipped them out. And then I don't know if any of you have ever had something break in the mail, but the mailman usually will just like put it in a Ziploc bag if it breaks and like deliver it to your door. And after the first week, I sent out like it was like 5 orders maybe the first week. And I got exactly 5 emails back the next week that they got a plastic bag full of broken glass, but they all said it smelled good. So that's something that I think is funny. It's like a depiction of, I just had no idea what I was doing, what to do, and yeah, so that was a big failure. It was really hard to figure out how to ship the glass bottles, and now, as you saw in the picture, we don't have glass bottles anymore. Yeah, go ahead.
Talk maybe about how you overcame that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just an issue, but what did you do after that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, as soon as we got into our stores, we wanted to bring back glass bottles because I think they kind of elevate the brand and make it look a little bit higher end. But ultimately, it was just so expensive to ship a glass bottle because it was so much heavier. So we kind of strayed away from that and ultimately just found a different supplier for plastic bottles and just kind of switched over to that way. So yeah, shipping was something that was kind of tricky for me to figure out because I didn't want to charge as much as the shipping was because people would think that I was scamming them into more money because I think it was like $7 to ship a bottle. So if I charged $7, people would probably not be very happy with that online, but that's what it was costing. So yeah, ultimately it was just about weight, doing something that was much lighter and easier to ship to our customers. So yeah, we just found a local supplier. It's still the one we use. Actually, it's in Salt Lake, which is random, but yeah, they do all sorts of different bottles. So we've kind of switched around with different plastic bottles. Barcodes. So I don't know if any of you have any experience. Probably this is something that other people probably know, but my very first store that we got in, I brought in a sample. I don't know if you guys know Soul Boutique in the Riverwoods in Provo, but they were our first retail store. And we brought in some samples, asked them if they wanted to sell our products, then sent an email with like our pricing and stuff, and they wanted our products. and I was super nervous because I had no idea what to do. And so I told them that we would give them the products, and then like all night was just doing research on what you need to do to prep your product to sell in a different store. And I don't think they had no idea they were our first store. And obviously you have to have a barcode so they can scan something, you know, and charge a certain price. And so you buy barcodes from like the actual government, and then you pay for each barcode, and it goes to like each one of your SKUs, so each one of your different products. And so I bought all the barcodes, had to like rush print them because we were supposed to deliver the order like the next day to the store. So I spent all night cutting out these barcodes on these little sticker sheets, and like we didn't design the bottles to fit a barcode because I never thought of that. So we just like stuck them on the bottom, brought them into the store, was super excited, and then a few days later I went back to the store just to check and see how they looked, and the store had put all of their barcodes like on top of ours. And like it looked so bad because it was just double barcode, but theirs was on top. And then I realized that obviously the stores would have their own barcodes. So that's just kind of a funny story that something I never thought of, but I learned luckily the first time and I've never done that again. Manufacturing, I'll talk about that actually more down the road in the presentation, but that's something that I've learned a ton about, and if you're wanting to go into something with product, there's so much to learn in manufacturing. So I'll talk about that more. And then Chinese New Year also kind of to go along with manufacturing. This is something that I didn't really realize before I was in the manufacturing space, but pretty much the whole manufacturing industry for anything that has to do with textiles, or obviously in China, shuts down for basically almost 2 months, so like all of January and all of February. So even if your manufacturers aren't overseas in China, pretty much even manufacturers here get materials from China or fabric from China, and you're like, yeah, you can't, no one works during Chinese New Year. It's not like you can convince someone to do something. The whole country just like shuts down. So I learned that the hard way preparing for, I think it was a spring line around January, and we didn't have products for like a couple months, which was so stressful because I didn't even know that was a thing. So that's something I learned the hard way, and I'll talk a little bit more about that down the road too. But something to consider that's just random and something I didn't know. Okay, so now I'm going to get into, sorry, the white's really hard to see, so I'll try to read those. But some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've done wrong, advice, lessons. So this is where if you guys have questions, just stop me. Okay, for lack of a better term, manufacturing is the pits. It's super fun and so complex. So this is something that we've been working on for almost 5 years. It's really, really, really hard to get right. So very rewarding when you do. But I think a lot of people, product-based businesses are often kind of where people start. They're a little more appealing, I think, for the most part. I don't know. Is that wrong? You guys are wanting to go in business? You like product? No, service? Well, if you do end up going to manufacturing, and probably at some point in your business life you will, definitely worth taking the time at the beginning to make sure that you found a manufacturer that you love and that is willing to work with you in your projects and your business endeavors in the future. So for example, when I was first trying to find a manufacturer, I was only looking at price pretty much. I was super stingy and didn't want to pay a lot. So we were looking at all the cheapest manufacturers and talking to everyone, told them what our project was, what our products were, and basically asking them what they could manufacture our products for, like what price they could do. And I seriously probably talked to like 500 manufacturers, not even kidding. So many manufacturers. This is over the course of obviously a few years. But there's so many things to consider. So a few things I look for. What would you guys guess for manufacturers? Like what would you guess is important? Yeah.
Accountability that they're able to like push through the product.
Yes, that's huge. And one thing with that is timing too. Like a lot of times a manufacturer will tell you a date and then it'll be several months later. So you want to make sure that you do like a few test runs before, so you kind of don't get in trouble. But yeah, that's a huge one, accountability. Anyone else have something they would imagine would be important for manufacturers? Yes, huge. So we learned that the hard way as well. But yeah, so quality, accountability, timing, obviously price. Trying to think of some other things. A lot of times, like communication, ease of working with someone, basically. If they're not super responsive, then when something's hard or they've done something wrong and they know and you like need a refund or something. A lot of times I've worked with manufacturers that can be really, really hard to hear back from, which is really frustrating when you have customers that are waiting on orders or wholesalers that are waiting on orders. So yeah, this is something we've switched manufacturers like 4 times, I think, in the life of Tossd, and I really wished if I had gone back and done it again, I would have taken the time at the very beginning to do a lot of test runs with different manufacturers and make sure that, compare the quality, compare the prices, which I'm sure most people do that, but at 16, I don't even think I knew what a manufacturer was. So yeah, it's so important though, because also you might sign on with one at the beginning and you're doing an order of 500, but then a few years down the road, you're doing an order of 500,000 and it will be totally different. So you want to kind of sign on with a manufacturer that can handle change, handle growth, and that will be flexible, that you have a good personal relationship with, because stuff will happen. And yeah, it also is really hard to switch manufacturers, especially if you kind of think about if you're running a business and you want to switch manufacturers. It takes several months to like get several samples back and make sure they're doing everything correctly and get them your patterns. So it's kind of a hard, and then if your products look different when the new manufacturer, so it's really hard to time when to do that. But yeah, it takes a long time, not to scare you. It's great, but that's something I always wish I would have just. We also had a few different manufacturers for each, or one manufacturer for each product was like in a different manufacturer, and it was just crazy town. So that's why I put that at number 1. Okay, number 2 is be patient and don't rush something. So I'll actually talk about this more, but it's always I'm very impatient, just personally, that's just kind of how I am. My husband's in the back like, But that's something that I always struggled with. I also am very type A personality, so I'll get really worked up about something and think, oh my gosh, if I don't launch this new line, by the very beginning of spring, then all of our customers are going to go away and all of our stores will be so mad, and I just kind of freak myself out. But it's never worth, at least from my experience, it's never worth rushing something and launching something too soon if it's not ready. So I have a story about that later. But basically and also if you guys are wanting to start something, I've heard a lot of people say like your product's never going to be perfect, your business is never going to be perfect, so don't wait till it's perfect to launch. Like it's kind of easier just to get your feet wet and jump right in. But there's also a very fine line of making sure that you have your ducks in a row before you launch, because it just gets crazy if you don't. So yeah, just try to be patient and wait till you're ready to launch a product, a new line, a whole company. Okay, faking it till you're making it. This probably should have been my number 1 because I feel like that's why I'm still doing it. But this is huge. I think just as a person in general, it's really important to be confident, but especially in business. Actually just raise your hands. Are most of you guys business students, or do you want to do business? Raise your hand if you want to go into business. Okay, awesome. Business, any member of a business in general pretty much has to be a people person. You're working with people, you're making different connections, working with different suppliers, and it's so beneficial to be able to communicate with people and be confident. And especially if you're wanting to do something like right out of school or while you're young, trust me, a lot of people won't take you seriously. So this is huge. This is like what I try to always do, and I'm not perfect at it. But if you're confident and you can carry yourself well and pretend like you know what you're talking about, or like, for example, when I got into my first store, they didn't know that was my first store, but I went in there and pretended like I knew exactly what to do to get in there, and then they emailed me back and said yes, and I was like, oh my gosh, crap, I have no idea what to do. But if I would have been like, hey, I think you like this maybe, then they probably wouldn't have wanted our product. So you have to start somewhere, but this is huge. I think, yeah, fake it till you make it. Okay, as you can see by my For the Love, this is something I'm really passionate about, but let people help you. And this is something that I almost didn't put in here because it's kind of hypocritical because I'm really bad at this, but I know that it's important. If you are planning to start your own business, owning a business is really hard. It's so awesome and rewarding, but it's really hard, and you're kind of juggling a million different things all the time. There's a million different things on your mind at all times of the day and night. So if you can have someone who's kind of bearing some of those burdens for you and taking care of some of the steps, it will change your life. And this is something that I took forever to do because, like I said, I'm super type A and I like to be in charge. And especially something like your company, it's like your baby, you're really protective over it. So it's really hard to give a portion of that to someone else to take over, at least for me. Some people probably not. But that's something that was so hard for me. But something I learned is even if you can't afford it, there's students who are looking for internships at any college always pretty much, and will do unpaid internships. So for example, the second I had someone start like posting on our Instagram and doing emails, I liked my business 1,000 times better. Like really it'll make you enjoy it so much more if you can kind of let people do the things that you don't want to do. And also, there's people that are better at different things than you. Like you might be the best person at kind of like managing and being in charge, and you might know the most about your industry or your product, but there's for sure someone who's maybe better at customer service or better at social media or better at like sales or customer relationships, or there's someone that's better than you at something in your company. So if you can find those things that maybe are your weak points and have someone else do it, it won't only elevate your business and allow you to have more time to like do the things that you're better at, but also just for your sanity, you'll like it better. So that's something, like I said, I'm not very good at this. I have a mentor and then like only one employee pretty much who kind of does a lot. But I was like about to break before we had her, and now she does so much, takes care of so much, and I like can't believe I ever didn't have her. It's a waste of the other 4 years not having her because she is so helpful. So yeah, even if you can't afford it yet, I would say figure out a way to have help, whether it's like a sister who wants to do your emails or something. As soon as you start to get too bogged down, you'll kind of lose motivation to take your business to the next level, and that is a huge thing that will help. Okay. So this is something I'm passionate about as well. Well, everything is, that's why I put it in here. But being honest and genuine, and people will understand. So I have a little story about this. So kind of going back to the Chinese New Year thing, we were completely out of product for like 3 months. And so super stressful. Our manufacturing story, I won't get into all the details, but we had everything overseas. All of our products were being manufactured in China. And this is like last year. We decided to bring everything here, just for quality and time and just easier. So we decided to bring all of our products to the States. And when we switched our manufacturer, I definitely rushed into it and kind of got stressed out because we were supposed to launch a new line and I didn't want to wait till the next line because we didn't have enough product, blah, blah, blah. But for sure rushed into it and signed on with this new manufacturer. And it was such a disaster. We're still suffering the consequences, but it was like so much more expensive than what we had agreed on. And it was already too late at that point. They had all of our product and basically said, you have to pay it today or we're not going to ship it. And it was also like 4.5 months late. So at this point, we didn't have any product. And this is why I put in the don't rush thing, is because they told us they were going to ship it that day. So we had samples that we had photographed already. So we put everything on our site and opened it up for pre-order. And all of our wholesalers ordered, all of our customers ordered, and then all that happened. So there was several months where people had ordered and paid for their product and didn't get them. So at first, I was freaking out, like, what can we do? And I was emailing, like, this was actually during the time of a hurricane, and that actually did make it longer. So I was like, there's a hurricane, and just kept kind of making excuses of why it was taking so long. And then it had been like 4 months, and it was way too long to make an excuse, and it was horrible. So I wrote out this email to every single person who had ordered, which was a lot. It had been several months, and basically said, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm only human. This is what happened. We basically got scammed in our manufacturer. We don't have the product yet. Like, we thought it was going to be here. And I was so scared to send it out because I thought that everyone would be so frustrated because they paid for their, I would be, they paid for their products. So I was really nervous to do it, but it was kind of like the only option left because it had been so long. And I was so shocked immediately. As soon as I sent out the email, so many emails back saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Totally understand, take your time, like no rush, I'm not worried about the products. And same with the retailers. They were like, no worries, we'll figure something out for the time being. Hope you get it. Some people even different wholesalers were like, oh my gosh, we'll take it at a different price. People were so nice and understanding, and I was so shocked. And I'm sure there are people that were mad. They just didn't email me about it, thankfully. But I learned that lesson. I've learned it several times over again, but especially then, that we're only human, and if people can kind of connect with you on that and realize that you're just a human making mistakes, then they will hopefully kind of understand a little bit better and be a little bit more, I don't know, nicer. So yeah, that's a big lesson. Okay, number 6. So this is really hard as well, but setting boundaries for yourself. So what I mean by that is most people, when they go to a job, I don't know if you guys have jobs, but when you go to a job, you get home at 5 and then you're home. You have dinner or whatever. Then you're home, maybe work on homework. But then kind of like you're not thinking about work anymore probably once you get off work. Maybe something stressful happened, but you're off work, you're done. When you start your own business, that kind of never goes away. It's always in the back of your head. It doesn't really matter what time it is. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I have this due, this email, she made about this, like I have this supplier to talk to. And I had one year, this was like 2 years ago, where I worked business hours and then Chinese business hours through the night. Not a whole year, but several months of doing that when we were trying to launch a new line. And it's horrible. You have to somehow set boundaries for yourself, and obviously that will look different for each one of you. But I think a lot of people don't really think about that going into it, that there's no one's in charge of you, so there's no cutoff time. Like, you're never off work. So even, if you want to go on vacation, it's awesome. That's one of the best things about having your own business, is that you can kind of take off and leave, and it's much more flexible. But this is huge. So this is something that I haven't mastered, and I'm working on it. But I think it's so important to set boundaries for yourself. Like, tell yourself that no matter what happens, okay, maybe no matter what, but pretty much, like, you're never going to work past 6 p.m. Or, if you have kids, once your kids get home from school, you're not going to work, or whatever it looks like for you. Or maybe you say, 5 to 9 p.m. is homework time and nothing else, like nothing about your business. So like I said, that will look different for every person. Maybe you have to get up earlier to do that, but it will very quickly kind of consume your life and your thoughts and everything if you don't set really strict kind of boundaries for yourself. And like I said, I'm not good at this. I was good at this at one point, and now I'm kind of like I'm kind of getting more lenient about it, and it's easy to just be working all the time, because there's always, if you're the owner, there's literally always something for you to do. You're never off work. You're never done working. So that's something that's huge. Also, like I said, don't let this scare you, because this is the best part to me personally about owning a business, is I can be off work whenever I want, but you're also on work all the time if you're not careful. Okay, so this is something: be stingy with your funds, especially, oh, you can't even see it, sorry, especially at the beginning. So it's really easy, especially if you have investor money at the very beginning, to want to do all sorts of things. You're probably super excited, you have a ton of momentum, and there's so many different products that you want to start, so many different collaborations or like marketing agencies that you want to work for, or really awesome person that you want to hire to do your website. There's so many different awesome places to put your money, but it's really, really easy to kind of just like throw it all out, because it's not really your money. It's your business. I mean, it is your money, but it's your business's money. So it doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't feel like my money. So it's much easier to spend, and then before you know it, it's gone. And then it's almost worse than you personally being out of money, because then you have people counting on you. So there's not really like, obviously there's no perfect formula for this. There's no magic number. It totally depends on your industry and your market, but definitely something to think about is that it happens faster than you think, just to have kind of everything go away. And you want to have long-term perspective on, if you want to launch a product later, then obviously you need to have a lot of funds, and it's kind of, you might plan on having a ton of orders or wholesale or whatever, but you never can obviously have that guaranteed. So that's something that's huge. Okay, this is something. Also, I'm sorry. I'm just rattling off. Do you guys have any questions or comments before I keep going? Anyone? Yeah,
You
please.
mentioned investor money.
Mhm.
Did you seek investors, or do you have investors?
So we actually never did. So we bootstrapped from the beginning, and then since I think I kind of have a unique situation. Since I was a teenager, it grew. Honestly, like I only count probably the last 3 years of like Tossd being a real company. I mean, the first couple years I was still working my butt off, but I didn't even know. I wasn't even old enough to have like my own bank account. It was separate from. So it was just kind of wishy-washy the first couple years. But because of that, we were able to grow really, really slowly. And I think for most people, that's not how it's like, what it's like. But because of that, we had, like, for example, so this is a good little lesson. When we first got our bottles, we ordered like 10 at a time because we just had a supplier that had really low minimums. So we'd order 10 bottles, sell those 10, and then take that money to order the next 10 bottles. It was just kind of really, really slow increments building on itself. So now that it's been a few years, we kind of we've never taken investor money. I don't think we ever will. So honestly, it's not something I know a ton about. I mean, I learned about it in school, but yeah, I don't know. I've never experienced it firsthand. So I know it's a great way to go, especially for a product that you need a lot more funds. If I was doing it today, if I was starting this today, I totally would take investor money. But another option too that I've had success with, I just told you a bad story about this, but pre-orders is a great way if you're not wanting to do investor money. It's kind of scary, I think, if you've never done it before, to kind of go to an investor is scary. So if you're wanting to start something, a good way to kind of make funds before you need to buy something is pre-ordering. So if you have, like, if you get one sample from a manufacturer, then you can shoot that and launch that on your website, and then, you know, however many orders you get of that, order, you know, 50 more or 100 more, and just kind of build slowly that way. And obviously it's more expensive to do smaller quantities. Manufacturers and suppliers and things do discounts if you do huge orders, but you have to start somewhere. So yeah, I would do that now, but if you're not wanting to do that, pre-orders is a great way to go as far as a product company, at least. So good question. Any other questions about anything, or comments, or questions about like stores or day-to-day or the industry, or like partners, anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, what is your day-to-day like? Exactly.
Luckily, it's a lot better now that we have her name's Emily, our boy. It used to be a lot of emails, so many emails. So because of the nature of our industry, we're in a lot of wholesale locations, and so we'd have people emailing us about, you know, they wanted to place a new order, but they wanted custom whatever or this much, but we didn't have it, and they just kind of, each wholesaler kind of had a custom request because it becomes their brand, you know, once you put it in their store. So people had a lot of custom requests about that. I do a lot with our warehouse. So we have a warehouse fulfillment center in Lehigh that sends out all of our orders and kind of manages all that. So I would check up with her name, our warehouse manager, check up with her, make sure that all the orders have gone out, kind of see how many orders went out that day, if they had any issues, like sometimes, you know, there was an address that was incorrect or they needed to come in. Meeting with stores, and I did a lot of cold calling at first to get into stores, and then we hired a sales team. So then it kind of became more managing the sales team, making sure that they were all hitting we had like a requirement of how many stores they were supposed to email or call or whatever for the week. So talking with them. What else? My favorite thing to do is designing new lines. So working with our designer to kind of come up with like the fashion trends of the next season and to kind of make sure we're like within those colors and patterns. Talking to manufacturers a lot. That's really only kind of, we do 4 different lines. We do a line for every season. And so at the beginning or end of the season, before the beginning of the next season, we do a lot of manufacturing, working with manufacturers. What else? I work from home, which is awesome. We've never had an office. There's only 3 of us still, so I work from home, which is really nice. I just have my laptop and do a lot on my computer or visit stores. I'm trying to think. I used to drive around orders, which looking back was the biggest waste of my time. I don't know why I did that for a long time in Utah. trying to think of what else I do day to day.
Who's your distributor now?
So it's called Finoco. It's kind of a weird name, but it's just our fulfillment center in Lehigh that sends out all of our wholesale orders as well as all of our customer orders. So they just kind of take care of everything and ship out everything, which is really nice. Don't have to think about it. When we were first starting off, I would send out all of our orders for the first year probably. I would just every other day package all of our orders and send them out that way, which obviously was very, very time consuming. But yeah, at the beginning, it was much more manual type, printing off orders, packaging scrunchies, or that kind of thing. And now it's more just communicating with people who are kind of in our space. I'm trying to think. I know I'm forgetting some things. What I do. Coming up with new products is really fun too. So that's something I like to do is look at different suppliers and kind of see what they're selling, or go to shows and see what people are selling and kind of see what would work with our market and what our customers would like. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
And then I had a follow-up.
Yeah. It's not always. But the most effective thing I've found, so I still have it. There's one scrunchie that's the most perfect scrunchie of all time. Super stretchy, great material, and I've kept it in a Ziploc baggie that says it's labeled, and I send that scrunchie to, or in this case it's scrunchie, but banana, whatever product you're doing, to every manufacturer, and I always ask for it back to make sure that, and just basically ask them for their best replica of what I sent them. So at first, obviously that's hard if you don't have something, but pictures, patterns. Oh, another thing that was really helpful. This is random, but I found a seamstress on KSL who lived in she lived in Spanish Fork, and basically showed her some pictures of what I wanted. And she made a few different versions. I think I paid her $15. She made a few different versions of it, and then I sent that to manufacturers and said, I like this one, I would label it, I like this one, but I want it stretchier or different material or smaller, just kind of with different specifications. But yeah, the other thing I think is allowing the manufacturer to send you a few samples, because I've done this. Like I said, I'm very impatient, which is bad. But I've done this before where I say, I need this just a little bit smaller, 2 centimeters smaller. So for the huge batch, just do that 2 centimeters smaller. And they'll send it back and it's way too small. But now I have 10,000 of them. So it's, you definitely want to take your time getting all of the samples back. But yeah, does that answer your question? Or yeah, so if you have a physical, I know I learned this in one of my business, so also I'm a student. I don't know if I forgot to say that. But one of my business classes, we had to come up with a product and then make a prototype. And my professor was a super successful businessman. And he was like, even if it's out of popsicle sticks and styrofoam, whatever you can have a 3D model and show a manufacturer, they can still see the overall shape, even if it's trash bags and toothpicks, whatever you're making, if you can make any type of physical prototype is really, really beneficial. So any other questions? Stores, what kind of, do you guys just want to tell me the types of things that you're interested in, what you're hoping to go into, if there's a specific industry or a specific product or anything about my industry or anything that I can help with, things. I guess I didn't really tell you much about what I like about my job. I can tell you some of that. Would that be beneficial? Okay. The probably number one thing is super flexible, which is awesome, especially if you're going to start it while you're in school. I'm still a full-time college student, so very important to have flexible time. Probably, this is maybe I forgot to repeat the questions. I'm sorry. I just remembered. You will meet so many awesome people and just have cool relationships with people, different suppliers or people through the orphanage or different stores that will be beneficial. And it's very, very rewarding also to see something that you've created become successful. Whether it is or not, you'll have small successes, and it's very, very, very rewarding. So even when we travel, if I see my product somewhere in a store, it's so fun to see my product in a different state and know that I created that. is really, really rewarding. So that's probably one of my favorite things. What else? I personally love the creative side of this. So it's my way of it's like kind of a creative outlet. So I love, like I said, designing new products or trying to figure out what customers want, asking customers what they want, trying to validate that, and just kind of have it as a creative. I like to design our products, design the website. I don't do it anymore, but that was something that was really fun at first. And yeah, I think I actually have more slides. Let's see. Oh, okay, number 9. This is huge. I don't know if you guys have to do you have to take an Excel class in this program? Okay, so nice. I didn't even realize what I was missing out on until I took an Excel class, and there's so many different things that you can do to track all your analytics, and it will be so helpful to be able to know exactly how many of this product you sold over the whole year, or how much money you spent on shipping, or how much money you lost on discounts, or how many new stores you're in and what all the stores are paying. That's not something I learned until way too late, but tracking every single thing you can and kind of just keeping a spreadsheet of everything you can is super helpful and will help you be more successful and kind of set goals off of what your previous numbers and things were. I think I have one more. Oh, okay, this is a question I wanted to ask. If some of you, also, they're kind of girly products, and most of you are boys, but I brought a lot of scrunchies, and I was gonna say if you ask a question, you can get one, but all of you can just come up and get one. And if you're a boy, if you have long hair, or a girlfriend, or a spouse, or a sister who wants a scrunchie, feel free to take one. But if people just don't mind, I'm curious what makes people nervous about starting a business, and I'm wondering if I experienced the same thing and what I did. So if anyone wants to share what makes you nervous? Yeah, thank you.
Funding.
Yeah, that's very scary. Like I said, a pre-order, if you're doing a product, is a really good way to kind of slowly get funding and build slowly. But yeah, funding is very scary. It's still very scary to me, but that's a valid thing to be nervous about.
I guess another one is where to start.
Yeah. Do most of you agree with that? Where to start? I know I kind of said to make sure your ducks are in a row, and I still think that. But if I wouldn't have just jumped in and done it, I probably never would have done it. I think also, I don't know, sometimes people ask me, like, would you suggest starting it after school, or would you do it in school? And it's crazy doing it in school, but also I think there's maybe never a great time to just, like, give your whole life to something. Like, maybe you'll get married, or maybe you want to travel, or it's kind of hard to find. And it's a long process, so I would just say just do it. Just start wherever you can. And I think the number one place to start is find someone who has done it and have them be your mentor. I don't know if I talked about that enough, but my mentor is my business partner, essentially, and I had one before him that I would ask everything to, and we would not be up and running still if it weren't for my mentor, because I didn't know what I was doing. So if you have someone that you can ask, hey, I want to do this, how would I do it? And people will be much more willing to help than you probably think. But that's what I'd say to start, is find someone that you can have an open relationship with and communicate with about what you're doing, and ask them anything and everything. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so it's our bottles of salt spray are what donate. So it's $1 from every bottle. And so we kind of track it after we just send it each month. So each month the reason I do that is because it forces me to go back through our month and see how it went and see what products did well, what didn't do well. So at the end of every month, we'll kind of just make a spreadsheet and see exactly how many bottles we sold. So we donate when they sell, basically. So yeah, it's great. I love the social aspect. Sometimes, yeah, I don't know if you guys are interested in doing like a social venture, but it's super rewarding, but also sometimes I wish I would have separated it, because sometimes if the business isn't doing well, it's really, really stressful to donate that. Or if it's doing really well, I want to donate more, but it's like I'm stuck to this $1, and it kind of is contingent on how well our company's doing, which is financially more stable. But yeah, so at the end of every month, that's how we do it. So from the Salisbury. Any other questions? Yeah. to be honest, is not a very good story. But our salt spray was our first product, and it's still our best seller. But that was the only product that we had for a long time. I think the first like year or even 2 years maybe, it was just the salt spray. And so that's kind of why we started it, was to fund it. And then once we started adding, the next product was just, it was one scrunchie. Now they sell in big packs, but it was hard to sell, like to donate any one scrunchie is really cheap. So it was hard to donate some of it and to figure out, like, I didn't want to do $1 for per scrunchie too, because that'd be no profit on it. But I didn't want to do like a different number for each product. And so we just kind of stuck to the salt spray as since it's our bestseller, we just kind of stuck to that. But honestly, I wish I don't know, I maybe would change it now to be a percentage or like a flat rate, or I don't know. I think it's a little bit weird how it's only one product that does it, because some people want to support the orphanage, but then they like only can buy one product if they want to do that. So it is a little bit weird. But just since every product is a different price and some are really, really small and cheap, it was hard to donate a portion of it. So that's kind of how we decided. It's not a very good story. But yeah. Any other questions? Did you have one?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you see your business going in the future.
Yeah, so we're not in any international stores yet. So that's something that we've been working on and excited. Kind of a whole nother animal with different tariffs and things. But that's something that we want to do. And we want to expand our online shop. Most of our revenue right now is just from our wholesale stores, which is really fun, but I want to build our online presence. And then, of course, selling a business is awesome for me. Yeah.
How much product were you selling when you decided to contact a manufacturer?
Good question. So we started our scrunchies at this place in Provo. I don't even know if they're not even really a manufacturer, probably. They're not very big, like, I don't know what they're called. Probably like a contracted seamstress is, I think, what they're called. So we started there, and they were charging like $1 per scrunchie, and we would only do 100, 200, 300. I never made any of them. So when we decided we wanted to do scrunchies, we sent them there. And then I just quickly realized that a manufacturer could do them so much cheaper, but I didn't really have anywhere to start without having those prototypes. So we were probably selling, I don't know, like an exact number, but like a few hundred a month. enough where they needed to be cheaper. So our first was in China. And are you guys curious about how to find a manufacturer? Would that be helpful to kind of talk through the process? Okay, so Alibaba, I'm sure AliExpress and Alibaba is a website, basically just to kind of connect you, if you're not familiar, to connect you with manufacturers in China. So that's kind of where we started, and we reached out to people and showed them pictures and basically just asked them if they could do their scrunchies that they were already selling, but in different materials, different products. And then trade shows were where we were most successful too. So Vegas usually has the best ones for textiles, at least. Depends on the industry, but we just find those on the internet and go to the trade shows, and each manufacturer like has a booth, and there's so many. But you can just go around, talk to them, show them exactly what you want to do, give them a business card, kind of jot down some notes of like what their minimums are, and then kind of go from there. So trade shows I think are the most effective because you can talk to people face to face. So if you're doing anything with like materials or clothing, textiles, there's one in Vegas called the Magic Show that happens, I think it's twice a year. That's awesome. So if you're curious about that, it's called the Magic Show. Anything else? I don't know what time it is, but